Hi everyone, welcome to the first vertical specific webinar from InMobi. We're going to talk about the category of social apps today, and we're just going to talk about general marketing techniques, app store ranking, and some really useful tips for all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know you have really busy schedules, but you still have taken out time for us. We'll try to make it as useful as possible. Before we start, a little bit about myself. I am Mehek. I joined in Mobi in December 2011. When I joined, I was focusing on global app developer as a segment for the company. I was working with the product for a little bit and then focusing on user acquisition and monetization for app developers. Recently, my focus has shifted only towards gaming and social clients, and I'm working with our US client primarily. Um, Prior to this, I was working with an early stage investment fund and I was focusing on clean tech investments, completely different space, but really exciting. Before that, I was a product manager with a clean tech startup in the US itself. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a master's, and I did my BTech from an IIT. For those of you who don't know about InMobi, really quickly about ourselves, we are the largest independent mobile ad network, currently reaching about 700 million unique users across 165 countries. Uh, Huge company, we have about 850 employees, lots of nationalities, and about 17 offices globally. We also have one of the largest product and tech company, which is solely focused on mobile as a segment. Without further ado, let's get into the real stuff here. So, why did we even choose the social category? It's a really old category. There's been Facebook, MySpace, Friendster that have been one of the most popular portals for most users online and on phone. But for this category by itself, the last 16 to 17 months have been really exciting, and the reasons have been, one, because for the first time the category has moved up to number third position in terms of revenue generation. For the first time, it has demonstrated a successful and scalable monetization that works across multiple segments, multiple users, and for a sustained period, which is pretty big. And the other thing that we've seen is that messaging and dating apps within this category have emerged as the winners. Uh, One of the most exciting trends, which we particularly as a global network are really excited about, is the fact that this category has exploded in some of the Asian countries with NHN Line, with Kakao Talk, Tencent coming up with their highly successful apps. The users in Korea, Japan, and some of the Southeast Asian countries are proving to have really high LTV for this particular category. S- The other thing that we've seen, which is very interesting again, is the fact that uh, for each segment and each country, the social app that dominates is different. Which means for all of you out there who trying to find their niche segment, there's a lot of hope because there could be multiple winners coexisting and still making money at the same time. Um, the other thing that we've seen obviously is that people, not people, developers are really, going after very innovative ways of monetizing these apps, which is very interesting. And, we're you know the biggest surprise for us was the stickers. We never thought that NHN Line stickers could ever make millions of dollars for any company, but they did. So just the fact that they were customized, just the fact that they were very focused on the local market, just the fact that they were using all the features of a mobile phone and differentiating from a regular social portal made them very special and highly successful. um, so here's what we're going to talk about in detail today. We'll start with social app marketing basics. We'll talk about, pre-launch marketing. We'll talk about, what are the things that you should take care of at the time of launch, and what are do's and don'ts that people usually forget. The second thing we're going to talk about, we're specifically going to get into paid user acquisition, and we will, talk about different channels of paid user acquisition, and the quality of users that is expected out of each channel. The third thing we're going to talk about, it's a very controversial topic. All the people, stay away from it, but we do believe that it's a very important lever for making your app successful. And we're going to talk about what really drives the App Store ranks and how can that be influenced using a very smart marketing mix. The fourth thing we're going to talk about is conversion tracking. It's a big problem in this space. It's a lot of developers who are entering into mobile, given that the space is still a little nascent, are facing problems with choosing the right technology. We'll give you some of our ideas. We'll get into Next, we'll get into a very interesting section. We're going to get into proprietary research from InMobi on what is the lifetime value of users that you could expect from each country and by category of app. This could definitely help you prioritize the countries that you want to launch into. And if you need any further information on this research, you could just get in touch with us and we could help you further. The last thing that we're going to talk about is how to take your app global, which we think is very important. A lot of social app developers that I've spoken to prefer to keep their app local, and there's a misconception in the market that social app is a very local kind of an app, but we don't believe that. With slight customization, with localization of the app, you can actually plan a very intelligent global launch, which is, in our case, in most cases, it's been successful. And you should also start exploring more countries than just the US or UK. And this is especially prevalent in the US and UK developers that I've spoken to. A lot of them don't want to get outside the US market or take very long to get into the Asian market. It's a really lucrative market, and you should start looking at it right from the conception of your idea. All right, so let's get into social app marketing tactics. These are going to be really tactical, very small things that you should take care of. I mean, this is, known to most of you, that currently app discovery is the biggest problem. You have, more than a million apps, actually 2 million apps. You have extremely high growth, and there are multiple screens, multiple platform, very different and dynamic user behaviors which no one knows about. And to capture that and leverage it in the right manner is the most challenging thing that any app developer faces right now. Obviously, we're dealing with one of the most fragmented spaces in the market. There's so many channels to choose from. There's so many sites that you could go to. You can work with so many partners that still not be satisfied on about what you're getting, and you wouldn't even know whether that's the right thing to do or not. So the level of maturity in this space is really low right now. um, the third biggest problem, which makes it really difficult to scale campaigns on mobile, is the fact that it's difficult to measure and predict ROI. And this is very applicable to, this is highly applicable to apps that are just launching, because at the time of launch, you wouldn't know whether it'd be successful, what monetization would work for this particular app, and so it's really difficult to determine what should be the budget, how much should you exactly spend per user, for how long. And this becomes even more tough if tracking and attribution is a problem. The last thing is, while acquiring users, should you go for quantity or should you go for quality? Does it, is there some way to get an optimum mix of both? So we're going to try and solve some of these issues for you. Okay. So these are some basics of user acquisition that we have learned over time, and this is something that every app developer should keep in mind. Um, One of the most important thing is that every time any app developer decides their user acquisition budget, it's very important to have a slight idea of what is the kind of LTV that you're expecting. And the reason to know this is because you want to determine what is the maximum that you can spend. And a lot of social app developers don't have their monetization strategy clear and just launch their app. So unless you're very well capitalized, it's difficult for you to launch an app that could get user traction initially, because you don't know what budgets to spend, you don't know how much to spend, how for how long should you spend that. So it's very important to determine what is that basic value of a user that you can expect out of your app, and what should be the money that you can spend. So some idea of cost is very important. The other thing is cost varies a lot by market, by channel, by timing, so the user acquisition channels that you're using could behave very differently right now versus in December. And that's because internal network dynamics, there's a lot of competition, you don't know which are the other developers that are launching their apps. So timing of a launch is very critical. So plan your time such that you know that one, it's not a very high competition time per se. So anything in the beginning of the quarter, anything in the middle of the week is much better than something at the end of the year or end of the quarter, because typically a lot of companies either increase their budgets during the end of the quarter or launch something towards the beginning of the quarter. So always look for mid-quarter timing. Timing is very essential. This can help you save some costs. um, the thing is that the second thing that we've noticed is that don't go with a strategy that any other gaming developer uh, would go with. The efficacy of each marketing channel is very dependent on the type of app that you're using, and you should definitely not go with what your friends in the game space would say, because it's very different from what it works in the social space. So you need to, one, understand what works for apps that are similar to yours. Two, you need to have analytics, detailed analytics in place right from the beginning of the app launch. Because if you don't have analytics in place, then it would become really easy to fool you. So have an LTV maximization platform in place, have an analytics platform in place right from the beginning. um, Second thing is, you really need to, for the first 2 to 3 months of your app launch, have a very close look at the numbers that you get from each channel. So continuous optimization, continuous monitoring is very important for the success of your app launch. So take care of that. The third thing is that don't assume a constant cost over time, and not that's not because of the market dynamics, that's because of your internal app dynamics. Typically an early user that you acquire will have highest LTV, and the later you get into your acquisition cycle, the poorer the quality of your user becomes. So you want to spend as much as possible in the beginning to get high quality users, and you would probably spend a little bit more for those early users because they're going to pay off better over time for you. So that's extremely important to take care of. One second. So I think this is very interesting. This is something that a lot of early app developers don't know about. So plan your budgets according to this. That it's an exponential decay graph, and it starts with really high, LTV in the beginning at t is equal to zero, and at t is equal to infinity, it becomes really low. So typically, a US strategy would be such that you want to keep acquiring users until the point you can get any extra user at a cost that is same as LTV. So this is like the worst case. Typically, you would want some margin, but if the two graphs merge, then you would stop acquiring new users. I don't know if that was clear, but you could reach out to me for any more details on that. Um, all right, so pre-launch marketing. Very, very quickly, we'll talk about some basic tactical ways to have some pre-launch marketing, in place. A lot of app developers typically just look at launch marketing and don't really have any pre-launch marketing strategy in place. But there are lots of small things that you could do which don't even take a lot of time, but could help you create that viral effect and could help you create that buzz around the app. So first of all, start monitoring some forums where people talk about apps similar to yours. You should monitor competing apps to find gaps, and you should preempt and promote your differentiating features in those forums. uh, Definitely create a pre-launch page, and we'll get into an example of that later. And that could create a lot of initial interest, and this interest could be with really good images of your app, some really cool snapshots, sorry, screenshots. You could talk about some cool features that your app has, and definitely have a sharing link on that launch page. Go claim your social media accounts much before your launch of app, because if you have a page where people, you can start creating that initial interest on Twitter, Facebook. Pinterest is a new one, but it's working really well for some of the apps. Then you can try and engage your target audience right from the beginning, and this has worked really well in some cases for our customers. And definitely look at that option. um, as you get closer to your app launch, have a demo and create a sneak preview of the app and a teaser video that you can share on these forums and on your social media accounts. Obviously, reach out to your friends and family, tap into your network, and drive email signups. That's basic, but a lot of people don't do it. So we just like to repeat it. This is an example of a really cool app launch where no one knew what this app was about, but people just loved the app. And I will show you how it works. So this is the app store page. If you just scroll down, all these components come, they're just drawn towards the iPhone. You can move the components. It's really interactive. And actually what happens is when you make when you assemble all these components into something that's meaningful, it turns out to be a really cool speaker. So I thought this was really cool. It was very engaging. It was really neat and clean, very well made. On the first page, this particular pre-launch page had about 1,000 Twitter followers at the time of launch. It has a Facebook share and a Twitter share link. The funny thing is that this app is still not out, but the pre-launch page definitely created a lot of buzz. So this is a good example of a pre-launch page. All right, so at the time of your launch, for social apps, what we've seen is that the early buzz can create a lot of viral effect, and you can get that spiral going. If you have a lot of social traction, if you have traction on most of the portals that are popular among users, and you can actually uh, get a really high inorganic to organic ratio of users that you acquire just by creating buzz. So you need to really interact with those early users and make sure that you turn those early users into advocates, because these are the users who are going to go out, talk to their networks, and make your app popular. So definitely try to leverage your early users as much as possible. You should interact with your loyal users. You should give them badges, stickers, virtual currency, which they can use more and more to engage with your app. Use these early users also to take feedback, and as soon as possible you could incorporate those and then launch your neo versions. But definitely mint as much as possible from those early users. Give them incentives, give them whatever it takes to improve their engagement, give your feedback, and turn them into advocates. Very important technique. um, you should encourage your users in whatever way you could. Put a Facebook icon, put a sharing icon. You could give them, you could incentivize them in a way. You could, so that they share your app on Facebook. Obviously use notifications to solicit feedback. You definitely should create a fan page on Facebook. Lots of app developers don't do it, and you should have that link within the app so that the users can get to the fan page and interact with that. Be very active on your fan page. You need to post 3 to 4 times, run contests, sweepstakes, and create an app page on which you can, interact with people, ask them questions, have a dialogue running, get feedback. It's very important again to improve engagement. Um, Twitter, what we've seen is it's a very good way, it's a very common technique, but it's a very good way to engage into dialogues with your users and get early feedback and complaints in place. So, social media, very important technique for social apps, highly under leveraged, but it can create a lot of buzz and it can reduce your paid user acquisition cost significantly if it is done smartly. All right. So, app landing pages. We've been talking about it a lot. We have talked about it in some of our previous webinars as well. But we do think that app landing pages are this is something that a lot of developers completely ignore. um, one of the apps that we worked with, this is a small case study, and it's right now in one of the top 25 apps in the App Store. We saw that the early traffic that was coming to this app was 15% only from desktop at the time of launch. And so this number could go up to 20%, 25%. So this is a channel that you just can't ignore. So you need to have a very carefully and well designed landing page on the desktop as well. A lot of discovery still happens on desktop. It should be your desktop landing page should have a clean background. Definitely use Google Analytics to determine where your user are coming from, to understand your early user behavior. Your call to action should be very clear. You should do some A/B testing on this and make sure that your call to action is the right one that you're going for. For tracking, what we suggest to people is either an SMS or a QR code. We've seen best conversions. Don't go for just an app, landing URL, because we've not seen very good conversion in that. Um, Obviously have a sharing link for users at the landing page and a sign up for newsletter. For mobile users, it should be just a very chic designed landing page. It should be clean, it should have large imagery, and it should be really, it should not be very cluttered. It should be a very good looking, high clear CTA and high polish, with a lot of realism in its page. The other technique that obviously works well, and a lot of app developers are already using, especially the large app developers, are smart banners. So on your website, have a smart banner in which there is a link for a user to directly go to the app store and download the app. This is a really neat landing page. This is a Foursquare app. I'm sure all of you know about it. And if you look at it, it has this really clean elevator pitch on the top. It can tell you immediately discover and share great places with friends. So you immediately know it's a social app. It has something to do with your location. It has a sharing link. It has a sign up with Facebook link, and I could have made it a little, they could have made it a little less cluttered, and removed all these big icons and just have like really neat icons. But nevertheless, it's a pretty well designed, app landing page, I think. So that's it. These were some tactical tips that you could have used. Um, let's get into paid user acquisition. All right, I know I've heard this from multiple people, and there are lots of news reports on this, that the ad app advertising ecosystem is extremely complex. There are new players coming up every day. There are niche players that are just exploding on one ad format. There are people who are taking advantages of all the inefficiencies in the system, and it's no one really knows who to work with. DSPs, RTBs, ad networks that are incentivized and non-incentivized, interstitial based, cross promotion, direct deals. I mean, there's so much going on that uh, typically a small app developer gets really confused as to which partner to work with. Now we have been able to collect data from a lot of social apps, and we have compiled it into a perfect mobile marketing mix that any app developer should use. A couple of things about paid user acquisition that you should take care of. One is that the marketing mix changes considerably over time, which I think we talked about a little bit before. But what I mean by this is that, let's say if you start with some percentage of your budget into a social marketing channel and the rest into a non incentivized channel. Initially, you might want to start with a lot of your budget into social network channel, but over time what we've seen is that the new users that you get from this channel starts to stagnate. So you want to, shift your budget more towards the non incent channel then, and continuously optimize it to make sure that your organic to inorganic ratio is always maximized. You should overall, at an average level, you should pay least to get an extra, to get a new user. So that's something that you should take care of. I think I talked about this before, but user acquisition strategies for a gaming app are very different from a social app in the market. So definitely don't try and use the same marketing mix. Some of the things that you should definitely think about before you're starting your campaign. One is, think of your target audience. Think of, to start with, which is going to be the most influential audience that you want to reach out to, because these are the ones that are going to be the advocates. These are the guys, these are the users that are going to go out in the market and create that viral effect. So you're going to be very careful as to where you want to start your app marketing with. Don't just pray and pray. That never helps. It's inefficient, never works. We've never seen it work in case of social apps. In fact, you land up with very high CPIs. You don't get a very good organic to inorganic ratio, and your entire app launch could just collapse because of that. You have to be very clear about the countries and platforms you want to launch into. We do have an LTV matrix that you could use, but we do suggest looking at more than just one country. Obviously, if you have a pilot launch, that's fine. But when you do your full blown launch, look at all the countries that are similar and just see, have that 80-20 split, 80% into the markets that you want to bet into the most, and 20% spray and praise strategy only on some of the countries that you think you don't want to spend too much until you're sure about. So you want to be very careful in that. uh, I wouldn't say don't experiment. I would definitely suggest you to go and experiment, but be careful with how you split your budget, especially in the beginning, because you want to maximize your budget on the highest LTV users, and that could be the country that you're betting into. um, like I said before, a lot of social apps think that they will figure out the monetization strategy after they've gained enough traction. Well, this could have worked in the past, but with so many successful monetization methods in the market now, I don't believe there's a reason for any social app not to have a monetization strategy at the time of launch. So definitely think of some ideas that you want to monetize your app on. This could make your marketing smarter, and this could make you more prudent in spending your money across different channels. Have some idea of your total marketing budgets and your app life cycle. In case of social, this is not that valid because you have a very long life cycle. But if you're looking at diversifying your model, or if you're looking at any other features, then you should look at your app life cycle very carefully, so that you can then understand when is your high LTV user coming, when is your low LTV user coming, when do you want to switch budgets, when do you want to reduce CPI. So have that feedback loop going very fast. For social apps, one of the most important things that we've seen that works very well is to start with a very focused and a local campaign. So, like I said before, you need to put 80% of your eggs in one basket. And that doesn't mean one country or one platform, but you want to put it towards that target audience that you believe will take this app the most. So you want to start with that high LTV segment, because they are the ones who are going to make your app popular, not anyone else. So your early users are the most valuable users, and they are the one who are going to create a virality, and they will grow the user base even without spending any money. So be very careful about where you want to start and maximize your budgets towards that target segment. Initially, we've seen the combination of non-incentivized ad networks and social marketing channels works the best in terms of quality and volume. Obviously, App Store rank has a huge impact on organic downloads. Organic users, just like which are very high at the time of launch, also have high LTV and higher loyalty, and hence higher loyalty. This is one of the most common marketing mix that we've seen, and we've aggregated data across about 10 popular apps. At the time of launch, as you can see, about 75% of budget is split between social marketing and non incentivized ad networks. Social marketing is very important to get the early buzz going, and non incentivized ad networks are good to get that diversified user set going. Obviously, you could have very specific filtering criteria to target a specific publisher or target a specific audience segment within that ad network. But we've seen that the overlap of users from a social marketing channel and a non incentivized ad network is very low. So it's best to start with both. If you want, if your app is a very niche app, in that case the percentage of social is going to be much higher than even non-incentivized ad networks. So you could adjust it to exactly 50, 50, 25, or it should be double of that. But you could take that call. But typically for a mass large scale social app, this kind of a mix works really well. Incentivized users have really poor quality for social apps. We've seen in some cases very high uninstall rates. We've seen in some cases that people completely remove this as a channel from their strategy. But if you want to have that option value, and if you have enough marketing budgets to have that option value, then definitely go ahead and try incentivize. Obviously, direct mailers and press PR, they're always the most evergreen methods of marketing. You could use those. As you get into the latter part of your life cycle, the marketing mix is skewed highly towards non-incentivized ad networks. And the reason for that is because, one, you start losing a lot of users, and two, the target segment that you had reached out to initially has already created that viral effect. So you want to reach out to new users now. You just want to get as many unique users as possible. So your strategy towards the latter part changes. You're not purely relying on the social marketing as a channel. You're relying on a more diverse set of users that you can possibly get from a non-incentivized ad network. We've also seen that in social marketing channel, the new users that you get starts to stagnate, and a lot of repetition of users starts after a certain time. So it's highly recommended to reduce your social marketing budget later and increase it towards the non-incentivized ad network. This is just 100% of your budget. So the actual amount of your budget could be very different post launch and at launch. It could be actually half. Post launch budget could be half of your launch budget. So this entire bar would be half the size, but nevertheless, the mix would remain the same. Very, very important matrix, we think. We have, again, this is through a lot of research that we've done internally. Um, the user quality that you get for a particular social app is very different from for different channels. And this is something that AppsFire had published for general apps before, but this is something that we've tailored only for social apps. So as you can see, the social channel gives highest conversion rates and one of the best quality of users. So that's something that you definitely want to maximize on. The size of the bubble here represents the volume. So there's only a finite volume of users that you can get from the social channel. The second is search in the case of social apps is very similar in quality to ad network, but the volume is almost 1/10. So it's highly recommended to go more with ad networks because they're slightly cheaper than search, and they also give more volume. So you want to maximize your budgets across these. Cross sell, if you do get an opportunity, it's very similar to a social marketing channel because you have a social app. But if you do get an opportunity to cross sell with a direct competitor, great opportunity. You should definitely go for it. Um, Incentivized, like we said, it's poor quality of users. Even app discovery platform is at the bottom of the stack, which is a big surprise because for games it works really well, but for social we've seen that it doesn't work. So you want to maximize your budgets probably only on the orange, blue, and green bubbles. That is the ad network, cross sell, and social. Cross sell is tough to do for social, so we highly recommend just going with social and ad networks. All right. So next section. Uh, let's talk a little bit about App Store ranking. Very again, like I said, controversial topic, but we do think it's important, and it is very important for any app developer to keep this in mind when launching an app. It can help you, understand what is the impact of all your social channels, the UA channels that you're working with, etc. By the way, one of the things that we thought, it's not related to this, but we saw that's really useful is that if you find the correlation of your app store ranking and the different marketing channels that you're working with, it could give you a very good idea of all the um, uh, all the features that you're looking for in a particular channel. For example, if your rank is directly correlated, is highly correlated with the number of users that you get from InMobi, just for the sake of this example, then it would reflect that InMobi is not only giving you the right volume, it is also giving you a very low uninstall rate. It is also giving you a very good quality of users that is creating, that are creating the buzz in the market and giving you positive reviews. So the App Store ranking algorithm right now has significantly changed, and it's very it signifies a lot of factors, rather than just the volume as it was before. So you want to find that correlation, and if there's a way to do that, not many people have been able to do it successfully because the signal is very noisy. But if you can do that, then it's very useful to understand the efficacy of each channel. So four quick factors with which your app store ranking is driven up. First is the install velocity. This is definitely the biggest influencer of your app store rank. uh, what velocity means is that it's basically a weighted average of the most recent installs, of the rate of most recent installs. That means that if your the number of app installs per whatever second or per minute that you got yesterday are the highest, then that factor could take your app store ranking really high. That the weightage of that factor is really high. Whereas if that number was very high 10 days back and is really low yesterday, then it could drive your rank down, because it's a weighted random, and it depends on the recency of your velocity. It's very important to make sure that you time your budget spends accordingly. So if you want to drive your app store ranking high, then you need to keep that velocity consistent. So the moment you start seeing that your install rate is dropping, you want to start spending more. you know the second thing is your absolute number of installs. Obviously, there is a really great paper by Distimo that they published on the minimum number of downloads that are required to reach the top 25 category on App Store. We also have a blog that you can go and visit on InMobi blog, which talks about strategies to improve your App Store ranking. That has details about which country to launch into, which segments, etc., to go into, and basic tactics of campaign setup during launch. The third thing is, which is where incentivized networks have a big disadvantage, is the fact that the uninstall rate has a negative effect on your App Store rank. So you should try and cut down your budgets from such channels which deliver poor quality of users, and that is that is in turn contributing negatively to your rank. The fourth factor is rating and reviews. You should, like I said before, create more buzz, get feedback from your users, and Make sure that your ratings and reviews are always positive. Even though this particular factor has a very low weightage, but it's just good to know that it has an impact. And just to give you an idea, for one particular social app, we have seen that the app store ranking, just the fact that it was in top 5 of app store rank, had increased its organic downloads by 10 times. So which is a pretty cool number. So if you can intelligently manage your app store rank, and if you have enough budgets, then this particular lever can give you extremely high organic users. And the good thing with social apps is that once you get that initial volume going, then it is very sticky. It's not like a game where a person can just leave and start playing another one. Social apps tend to be very sticky, so if you can get an initial volume of user base, that critical volume, then you can actually sustain it, and you can then start monetizing those users. So getting that initial momentum is very important, and getting to that critical volume is also very important. We won't spend too much time on this, but let's just talk about it. Because it's a very important aspect. What are the different types of tracking technologies that are available out there? Which one should you go with according to our recommendation? Um, Obviously, what we have heard is that 50% of the developers out there feel that tracking and attribution is the biggest concern in mobile advertising. If you look at it, that every impression, every 100 impression, you get only 0.06% downloads, and that in turn gives you only 0.012% registrations. The funnel is just, so for every 100,000 impressions you probably get one registration. So every number, if the accuracy changes by even a few decimal points of a percentage, a few basis points, then also the impact on the number of installs and the CPD could be very high. So it's very important to understand that you want to attribute accurately at every level, and you want to measure accurately the number of downloads that you're getting. um, there are some other cool things that you can do if you have accurate attribution. You can start looking at pricing based on the conversions that you're getting from each source. So let's say if you have like 10 publisher IDs from which you're getting traffic. In that case, you could start paying more for the publishers that are giving you highest conversion rates, and you could start paying really less for the publishers that are giving you low conversion rates. That would mean that your CPI would remain constant, your cost per install would remain constant, but your cost per click would vary based on your conversion. This is something that we are the only ones in the market. We do this right now. So we pay a publisher based on the conversions that they deliver and the quality of inventory that they have. You could take this to the next level and start paying publishers or sites based on the LTV that they deliver for your app, which could be really interesting. But for that, we need to make sure that there's enough transparency between the advertiser and the ad network, and all the signals are passed on correctly to the network. um, the last thing that you could do is obviously budget optimization. You try spending more and more from network on networks that are giving you highest conversion, and you start spending low on networks that are giving you low conversions. Or you could start spending high on networks that are giving you best LTV, and start spending low on networks that are giving you low LTV. Just to give you an example, we use conversion based pricing for a lot of our campaigns in this space, and our scale and the inventory reached had doubled. So, and the reason for that is because you typically earlier you would only have a black and white approach. So you would either serve an ad on a particular publisher if it has a particular conversion rate based on historical data, or you won't serve it. But if you have differential pricing, then you can serve on all the publishers, but just change the pricing so that the CPI of that campaign remains constant. So there are typically three types of tracking technologies: device ID based tracking, digital fingerprinting, and HTML5 cookie based tracking. In terms of accuracy, the best accuracy is of device ID and HTML. Fingerprinting is, it's a triangulation based technique, so it's not the most accurate, but I wouldn't say it's more than 20% off, maximum 20% off. We really like it because in case of device ID, we have seen a lot of drop offs if there's a device mismatch, or if the publisher is not giving you the right device ID. In that case, it's difficult. Once we have IDFN and Android referral standardized, in that case this might become more accurate, but for now we highly recommend either device ID based or fingerprinting based technology. User experience is lowest in HTML5 because there's a browser that is open, and the user can see this black page at which the cookies drop, so you don't want to go with that. The drop offs are highest in case of HTML5 and lowest in case of device ID. Inventory accessibility. Here is where it gets interesting. So, if you want a very high scale, if you want to access web inventory and mobile app inventory, the only technology that could work is either fingerprinting or HTML5. Now, HTML5, given the user experience, a lot of our developers don't prefer it. So, we definitely recommend fingerprinting. Fingerprinting is most very important in countries like Japan, where you have a lot of feature phone penetration and device ID is still not very prevalent, and in countries like China, where integration is still a big issue and publishers don't pass clean device IDs. So it's difficult to match the download. So you want to go with fingerprinting if you want to do a global launch. If you want to do a US focused launch, then device ID based tracking could still work. And like I said, global compatibility is highest in case of fingerprinting. So all in all, for English speaking countries, advanced users, mature mobile markets, you could go with device ID based tracking, but make sure that it's really robust. Fingerprinting is, you don't need a lot of work. It's just a basic fingerprinting technology which a lot of people have right now. Um, Including Add Truth and Matt and InMobi SDK itself. And you could just put the SDK for fingerprinting and forget about it. In case of device ID based tracking, there's a lot of monitoring required. There's a lot of cleanup on the publisher side required, and that sometimes takes longer for the integration cycle to complete. All right, we don't have too much time. Quickly, let's get into the different segments and their lifetime value, and that could help you determine which segments you want to get into. This is a very interesting chart that we have generated using some of the data. On this side, you have all the categories of apps, and here you have the countries in which you can possibly launch your app. So, if you look at it, you want to go with countries where you have, and the matrix here represents the LTV of a user that you get for each category and in each country. So as you can see, for social category and chat and messaging category, Japan, Indonesia, Thailand, and also Vietnam, which is not here, but Vietnam has very low cost of acquisition but very high and healthy ROI. So you want to start looking at these countries. US, UK, sometimes the competition is high, so cost of acquisition becomes a little high, but in some of these Asian countries, you could really seize the opportunity. In case of Japan, we've seen that for some of these Japanese apps, the ROI was three times the average ROI of any US messaging based app. So it's really high. And obviously, the best platforms to promote are smartphones and iPhone. We don't recommend tablets and iPads to start with, but if you do think your app is appropriate for tablet usage, then definitely go for it. But tablet traffic is slightly expensive, at least on the iPad front, because of brand advertising, and we also don't see a lot of traction on iPad users for social apps. All right, take your app global. I think that this is something that's very important, and I've interacted with so many app developers globally, and people are still confused on which countries to launch into and whether they should launch into a new country or not. One of the biggest app developer that I was speaking to the other day in the US has been contemplating their launch in Asia for the last 1 year. The only thing I would say is that there is not really much time, and for guys who are mature, who have a decent understanding, should just just take the call and dive into it and take that plunge. Because the opportunity is right now. If you can get that early traction, you could get some really high LTV users, and those users could otherwise just use some other app. So you want to get them onto your app as soon as possible. So definitely start thinking of taking your app global. Um, some tips that we think are very important is one is do not trivialize localization. There are multiple partners to work with. We can also help you with localization of your app for China, but local translation can increase your downloads by about 128% and your revenues by about 30%, which is pretty cool. So just changing your app language to Chinese or Korean or Japanese could increase your app revenues by 30% and downloads by 128%. Uh, there are some low hanging fruits. You could just have your creative in Chinese and then, run a campaign that could help. But still, if you want a better LTV, then you want to localize your app. And we're just talking about simple translation. We're not even talking about localizing the in app monetization features. We're just talking about plain translation. If you can further get into the next level and localize the in-app monetization features, that just takes the app to another level, and then you're competing with the likes of Line or Tencent, WeChat, or Kakao Talk. You know, um, you all would know that cute cartoons have, there's this huge affinity of Japanese and Korean and Chinese users towards cute cartoons in really bright colors. So you want to focus on that. Just there's enough text available on the web, and we can help you with some consulting here. But there are specific tastes that people in these countries have, and you want to follow and respect them. The third thing is, it's very interesting, and that's one of the reasons the LTV is really high, is that in these countries, it's not just the teenagers that use social and communication app. A lot of adults, 30, 35 plus males, use this kind of an app. In fact, one of the really one of our team members, which is within the executive team, spent about $200 on line stickers in some 2 weeks or something. So it's they have they have a lot of affinity towards these in-app characters, and they do buy a lot. You want to focus on these older audience, because the tendency of these audience to pay for an in-app feature is much higher than any teenage audience. The third thing is, you want to maximize your interactive experience. Use as many mobile features as possible. That is the only thing that differentiates your app from any other social portal or any other old school social apps. So you want to make it really cool. Cool is the new is the new mantra on social apps. Um, I think we talked about localizing the apps. The second thing is, don't underestimate the App Store fragmentation issues. Google Play still doesn't work in China, so all the Android revenue that you get is only from third party app stores. So before launching in China, take care of partnering with third party stores. InMobi has a product that can publish your app into multiple Chinese stores for free. So feel free to contact us for that. uh, Second thing is, device fingerprinting is very important for launching an app in Asian markets, because feature phone penetration is high in Japan, so it's difficult for you to even reach the users in most cases. And like I said, device IDs are not clean in China, so again, you wouldn't be able to match on device IDs very much. So these kind of issues are extremely prevalent. You want to take care of those. Some really cool campaigns that I thought worked very well. Um, One of the campaigns that we did, we can't name the network, the developer here, but we thought worked really well, is that we had a targeted campaign on Facebook and this was a geo targeting campaign that we ran on Facebook and on the ad network. So we were targeting only a few areas in the entire United States. We were so we had a you know we had a geo targeted campaign only into certain neighborhoods. That worked really well. It got that initial momentum going for these apps. So you could define your niche and only target that using mobile. The good thing with mobile is that your target segment could be really niche. There are obviously some cool things that Line did. Line implanted its app into Psy's Gangnam Style song. We were running the campaign that day, and the downloads, I think they went to 50 times the average download just by putting the app in that song. And that was sustained for about a week. So you could do some cool things. I know this requires a lot of budget, but there are some guerrilla marketing techniques that one of our colleagues from InMobi had talked about. Go look into those, what can be done. The coolest place to do this is obviously in the valley. And you could do some really cool guerrilla marketing tactics here. um, One of the very interesting thing was the way Line completely oosted out WhatsApp in Spain, and it went completely berserk actually in Spain. They just spent so much money only on ad network and social networks for about 2 weeks, and by the end of fourth week, uh, Line was already the number one app. So it's not impossible to remove someone. The reason I'm talking about this is that it's not that if there is an app that's popular in a country, marketing cannot you know oost that app out. Having a good app, having good features in the app that use all mobile features, and localized app can actually differentiate you from any other market leader that is already existent. So you should focus on that. The fourth thing that we thought was really cool was one of the campaigns that we did was was a retargeting campaign, and we only targeted users that were using competition apps. So any let's say you have a communication app and you want to target all the users that have either downloaded a communication app before or are using a communication app right now. So basically have a communication app as the publisher. So you could target those, and you could also do negative targeting, wherein you could say that I don't want to target users that have downloaded my app before or have not downloaded some particular app before or have downloaded. So there are multiple ways you could define your targeting at the user level, and we could go ahead and do that. It has worked very well in case of one niche social app, and we could try doing some of this more. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We do have some questions, and we just have like a minute, so we're gonna take one question right now. The first question I have here is that, have you seen any traction in Latin American countries? Um, and African countries. Okay, so Latin America, definitely. We've seen Brazil working really well. We've seen some other Latin American countries work really well, and there's a lot of volume and traction. Africa, not so much, because still the market there is there's a lot of gray market for mobile phones. So the tracking is not clean, the OS is not clean. We still don't know whether we're reaching the right user. So I wouldn't recommend you to launch your app in Africa, but definitely go for Latin America. Don't ignore markets like Southeast Asia. Again, I'm repeating it, but these are English speaking markets, low cost of acquisition, high ROI, so definitely worth looking at. Um, I'll just take one more question right now. One question that I have here is that, how does a retargeting campaign work? Retargeting campaign works at a UDID level. So because we have past historical data about every user's behavior, for example, which app it has downloaded, which app it has clicked on. Using that user behavior, we can target a particular segment of users. So let's say if you have an app that is exactly like Snapchat, then you could just say whoever has downloaded Snapchat before, I only want to target those users, and we can actually do that. So there are multiple ways of doing a retargeting campaign. We have, you could definitely reach out to us for any detailed questions on this. We do run a lot of retargeting campaigns, and it's gaining a lot of traction even in the social space. All right, guys, thanks a lot for joining us today. Feel free to reach out to us for any questions. I am based out of San Francisco, and I could, be reached on this email ID, mehek.sharma at inmobi.com. It was, great presenting to all of you. I look forward to hearing from all of you or some of you sometime soon. Thanks.